Live.
Hello.
Okay. Yes. Thanks, Miss Smith. I didn't ask you before we started recording or at least streaming to pronounce your name, but I'm assuming it's Taya.
It is Taya.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So let me give
Yes.
me let me give my little spiel here, and then
Yep.
we'll get into it. So
Fine.
my name is Rod Graham. I'm with Téa Smith, and this is another episode in my Being series, but this one is a little different in that Taya has a YouTube channel of her own, actually bigger than mine. And she's streaming, I believe, to her YouTube channel and also her other social media platforms, and it's also live. So this is this is
No pressure.
actually different for me. I think I've done this only once on Instagram. But I don't mind. I like a challenge, and I like being a little bit out of my comfort zone. So this is going to be a good experience for me, and I hope for Taya.
Mm.
So, so
Don't be nervous. You get used to it. It's one thing about video and streaming is that you realize that you're putting yourself out of your comfort zone.
mhm.
It's a muscle. It's like a muscle that you need to flex, and it's always going to be painful. Sorry, I know we're going to start with one thing, but I
Mhm.
think people might be interested, which is that
Go ahead.
I'm 3 years into streaming. I'm actually, I did it as a personal challenge because I reached a point where I was so afraid of video. I spent 10 years avoiding it. I could have done YouTube years and years and years and years ago, but every
Mhm.
time I went to do video, I was so nervous, or TV. I was like turning down TV, turning down all these things. And then I just went, I got to overcome this. I was so afraid that the first time my husband went to film it, I picked a fight with him and cracked the shits. That's what we say in Australia. I cracked the shits and I cried and picked a fight, and so I didn't have to do the video. So, and now I've gone to from that to live streaming. So if anyone wants to know if they're afraid of doing this stuff, do it, and you get used to it. Put yourself there, out there, do
Okay.
it. So anyway, I know that was just I wanted to mention that. So
Okay. You don't crack the shits anymore. That's over.
I crack the shits all the time. Just not
Okay.
over video, just not over that.
Okay. Awesome. You conquered
I
that.
like
Okay.
things my own way.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. So, let's see here. I want to give a little background about what this series is about, or at least what this video is about,
Hmm.
and what's going to happen going forward. So, with this being series, I like to learn about the person, and then about their views about society, culture, politics, right, whatnot. So, I'm always looking for interesting people, and so I don't know, somehow, I think Taya retweeted something. And I'm always looking for people. And I said, well, okay, who's this person? And then I went to her profile on Twitter and I saw, links to her amazing website. Very well done. And now I understand why, because you're a website designer. So I went to her
Was.
website and I saw, I'm sorry, say again.
I quit.
Okay, all right, past tense. But your skills follow you, right?
Yes,
So,
they
so,
do.
so you have
That's
a
right.
yeah, yeah. It's very
Yeah,
good website.
yeah.
I'm
I'm trying to break
envious.
the perception that people want that I want business. So I have to make sure that it's clear that I don't take clients anymore.
Okay, all right. She's
Yeah,
not taking clients, but you can see what you could have had. If
exactly.
yeah.
Precisely.
So and so I read it and I said, wow, this is an amazing person. I would like to talk to her. And she was gracious enough to say, all right, fine, Rod. Okay, fine. I'll take some time and talk to you. So this is where we are. So I think would you like to say a little bit before I kind of jump into this? I'm actually
Oh,
interviewing Taya, but like with most of my conversations, I'll put as much of me into this as possible.
hmm.
So if you're ready to go,
I
then
think we can just crack on and see how we flow. How's that sound?
yeah, let's roll with it. So that's
Okay.
that's the second time you've done the crack. So you've got cracking the shits, and then you got
Yep.
crack on. What's the deal with the
Yep.
crack
And then you've
here?
got butt crack. You've got butt
Okay,
crack.
yeah, that's universal.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
one thing we don't have here is cracker, which is something that Americans use
Yes.
differently and gets you banned on the various platforms and stuff. And it's yeah,
It
it's very
could. Yeah, yeah.
those cultural
Well,
clashes are very interesting.
it is
Watching
interesting. It is. Wait
those
a minute.
different
But
words.
you got the cracker that you put like some kind of spread
Yes,
on
but
or
we don't.
something, right?
We call it, so savory is crackers, and then sweet is biscuits. But you
Mhm.
biscuits for you are muffins. Like an egg McMuffin is like a biscuit, isn't it? It's very confusing.
Maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
or cookie. I mean, I always thought that, like, I
Oh,
would see
cookie.
the
That's
TV
right.
shows,
Biscuits,
and it would
cookies. Yeah.
be, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then so, but you can see how just something around food, how that might be create some confusion around
Mm.
politics as well, can't you? Those
Yes, you come here and,
clashes,
and you say, start using cracker in the
different
wrong
words for
context, and
things.
yeah, it'll be a
Yeah,
problem. Yeah.
exactly. Because we're, I mean, in Australia, one thing, because we're actually rewatching Dexter at the moment because of the new season. We're like, oh, we need to go back and watch that again.
Hmm.
And we're watching that, and there was this scene where the serial killer just says the C word, which is like shut up, CUNT. And in Australia, that's a compliment. So it's just funny how, because we were laughing because it's the
Interesting.
worst thing to say,
Yes.
but in America, but here we go, oh, so they're friends, you know, like it's just those weird differences. They're best friends.
That is something. Wow.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
okay, there are four words you can't say. You can't
Mm.
say the N word. You can't say the
Yep.
F word. You can't say the
Which
C word.
F word?
So maybe three. You
The
want me
gay
to say
slur?
it? I'm not gonna say
No, the
the
gay slur
the.
F word or the FUCK?
Oh, the gay slur.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So maybe there's just three. I thought
Yeah.
there were four. I mean, but yeah, there's in the N word, the F word, the C word. Something
Mm.
tells me there's another one, but I guess those are the big three, right? So you can't say those. But
Well,
um,
A lot of Australians have actually learned the hard way because there's a few like again, not to get into too much geopolitics, but this Australians call Americans seppos. I don't know if you've heard that term before. So it comes from light
no.
rhyming slang. So the United in the UK, septic tank from yank. So yank, septic tank. Australia goes seppo. Like it's a weird Australian thing where we have to shorten and add. Yeah. So, but
You're
apparently, if you
you're
use
calling Americans the kind of
yeah,
the sewer, the place where this what
but
what?
okay, it pays not to think too much about it. But
This
it's
is
all
starting off
again.
on the wrong
No, but this is a
foot.
cultural gap, which is
This
that these you got to understand that Australians say the opposite of what you think. So bad is good and good is bad. To take the piss is to be, you know,
like
having
joking
fun
or
or
something,
teasing.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Rather
yeah.
than yeah, there's a whole thing around Australia where it's very confusing for people because we say the opposite of what we mean. It's very, it's very confusing,
Okay.
and
All
things that are
right.
compliments are taken as insults, and so online that confusion is actually quite fascinating. Anyway, we've broken the ice. Let's go. I think
Yes,
the
we
thing is,
have.
largely American audiences actually really like hearing about the differences between Australia and America that they hadn't thought
I
about,
like it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the sort of imperialism and sort of that hegemonic force that is the internet that is like we're having this stuff and we're that what if okay if there's anything that people can understand about that is that we resent this fucking massive force of like language is like you can't say that well yes we can so we double down what we do is we go you can't tell us what to do so that's why you might see that pushback from Australians a bit more than others which is you know that natural kind of opposition to sort of being I don't want to use the word invaded but you know it feels a little bit like that you know like
Mhm.
one of my funny things I say is stop making me yell at children at my door on Halloween because we don't have it. It's like we don't have Halloween. Stop it. So yeah.
Wait a minute. Okay. All right. So if there's no Halloween, why are children coming to your door to ask for candy? They see it on
Because of
television. They say, "Oh, this is
television
this is a
culture.
chance to get some free candy." Okay, I see. I see.
Mr. Gramsci might say that it was a cultural hegemony.
That's right. All right. So let's dive in. I
Yes.
want to know
Okay.
more about you. So
Yes.
let's let me ask you a question. All right. What were you
Yeah.
doing at 17 years old, at 7 o'clock in the evening?
Okay, so that was a very interesting year, and it depends which part of the year that you're talking about. So that in here, that's the senior year of high school, year 12. I don't know if that the same there.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I was already living out of home, so I had my own apartment, and I was working 2 jobs and self-supporting. And so I was 7 p.m. So I used to actually do a part-time job that was like a once a week classifieds place where you take calls and for ads
Mm-hmm.
and take calls in a call center. So that was once a week. And then I would work 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. 3 or 4 nights a week in a 24-hour Italian restaurant. So, and then I would get up and go to school. Now, when I say it depends which part of the year that you're talking about, being exams in year 12 and
Mm-hmm.
all of that, it was good for the first half of the year, but then obviously I burnt out. So what happened was I actually burnt out and was ill, and all of that stuff from the unsustainable life of working that kind of stuff and studying and trying to
That's a
support myself.
lot for someone of
Yeah,
that
for a
age.
17-year-old,
Yeah.
yes, it was a lot, and not having sort of parental support. And I can talk about that. I'm quite open about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but so there was that, and then I got sick. So then I actually I failed my last year of school. So what I had to do was actually repeat year 12 in an adult repeat. I don't know if you have these. I imagine you do, where you get your repeat year 12 for adults. So like adult,
Mm-hmm.
and you sort of go back, and adults go back. So I kind of got thrust into that. So I repeated the following year. I also met my husband that year. So at 7 p.m., I was probably talking to either him on the phone because I was, crazy. My first husband, not my second husband, because
Uh-huh.
I met my first husband at 17. He's now my first husband. Life advice, people. But I'm kidding. But yes, I was at, probably, so it was quite a formative year for me, right? And a lot going on. But I actually flunked out of year 12 that year, didn't graduate. I had a very fixed idea of what I wanted to be when I grew up. And what's funny is I kind of became that because, my job did not exist yet. And that was weird
Hmm.
because this was 1996. So I still like the same music. Still like we're
That
stuck in the
happens.
90s.
I'm the same. I'm the same. Yeah.
How old are you, Rod? I can't.
I am
I'm 42.
47.
Oh, okay. So being stuck. Well, you're kind of stuck in 1992 as well, then
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
with the music and
Hmm.
Um, so those were the best days of our lives. Those sorts of things. You
At
find
least the
yourself
music, yeah. I
you
mean,
become
yeah, yeah.
everything. I
Uh-huh.
see my grandmother's eyes starting to form. I hear my mother's voice. I hear you go, oh no, I'm that person now. Oh shit. But anyway, but at 17, I wanted to do, I loved media. Okay, so media, I wanted to be a journalist. I'm so glad that I didn't want to be a journalist, that I didn't decide to become one, because
Oh
what's
no.
happened to journalism today, goodness me. But I love to write, I love to create, and I fell into multimedia. So I'd been on the internet for 3.5 years by then. So end of 93 was when I first got on the internet. That's very early. And so
Yes,
I
it
just
was.
rode that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I was going into multimedia. So media, desktop publishing is what it was called at the time, or multimedia when it was like on CDs and zip drives.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that was the risky career choice. It was the risk. That was the thing, is that's what people don't understand at that time, which was the media, multimedia computers. It was also new. The internet, nobody was on it. I often joke that I was on the internet because I wanted to keep secrets. Like that was, I had an open journal, those sorts of things, right? So
Uh-huh.
I was often writing, I had an online diary that I didn't even bother to secure, like, because nobody I knew was on there. And that was just, it was the best way to keep a secret was to be online. That's how different this is now. Because
So wait,
now
wait.
yeah,
Before was that liberating to you
yeah,
psychologically to kind of
yeah.
put that stuff out there? Yeah, yeah.
So when I was, okay, so to take you to 17, I have
Hmm.
always been odd. Okay. Um, there's a question, I've got
Oh,
ADHD, but there's a
join the
question
club.
about,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, I always grew up with an acute sense that I was different from
Hmm.
other people.
Hmm.
And not in that way that I think as a kid I misinterpreted that. I was obviously, I was gifted, right? But I was also one of my earliest memories is, and I never go anywhere I'm not comfortable going. That's fine. But one of my earliest memories was being in pre-primary or year one. I skipped pre-primary for year one, and then I remember being sent to the year 5 classroom to get a book to read from my teacher. She thought she was helping me, but that actually was a formative thing where I realized that I was different, like very
Okay.
early. And
Yeah. Yeah.
those, I mean, when you're a little kid, those kids look huge. So to have a kid, you had to go knock on the classroom door and have a room of 30 10-year-olds turn big kids, right? Turn
Hmm.
around and just all look at you at once. That was a very formative thing for me. I always felt like that it was just that disconnect. So when I was 17, the internet was liberating in that regard because I could just
That's right.
the
I understand.
irony, and I've been working on this book for freaking 15 years. Constantly, but it never gets written. But some of the stuff that I've written about was the great irony is that I was stripped of my identity online. Like, so all of those identity markers, and I was just me. I was a head in a jar. I didn't exist. I wasn't a poor kid. I wasn't a woman. I wasn't any of these things. It was just a place, a sandbox for me to exist in a sort of separate place other than me. Now, over the years, that became this persona that you may or may not, see emerge from time to time. As a
Okay. Wait. Wait.
Yeah,
Wait. So you were
mm,
stripped of your identity. Was that a good thing or a bad
yeah,
thing? Okay.
great thing.
Okay. Good thing. Okay.
Because
Mhm.
again, I think and I think kids who grew up in like sort of neglectful or very real sense of class, right? A very real
Mhm.
sense of
Mhm.
difference or class, or that this world is not designed for them. Like that's why a lot of this stuff where it's like I love what's happening. I love this people yelling and shouting, going, yeah. In a world that's not designed for them. I've got a son who's autistic, right? I've got a husband who's on the spectrum. We're a family of weirdos, right? And people say that's an insult, and I say that's actually our gift. Like that's a badge of honor in my family, right? To be different.
Mhm.
What's your? It's
Mhm.
great. And so that was very formative for me. So to be stripped of the things that were used as weapons. So, being a girl, I mean, one thing about being a woman online is that you are continually told that you're stupid. Even
Hmm.
if it's not literally being told that you're stupid, it's being told to reword things or be more polite or um, you know
I've seen this. I've seen this.
reframe things. The bar,
Uh-huh.
but
Yeah.
it's also
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
bar that just keeps inching and it keeps moving. It's a credibility carrot. It's like a carrot, and it just keeps and like and this is something that happened throughout my career. From when I actually the 17-year-old question is interesting because I've actually sort of come full circle to 17. I knew who I was back then, but it's kind of a weird full circle where I initially bought this idea that if I just behaved or shut up or, there was this big promise, this big lie that if I did all of the things, that there
Hmm.
was a place for me, that there
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
that there was
Yeah.
a place. And what I love seeing now, most recently, with things like anti-work, and I know we're getting into politics, but it's just a big part of. But anti-work and all, I go, good on you. I wish I was 17 and young and angry again. Like that sort of stuff. And I really root for those sorts of movements where they kind of go, you know what, we've accepted that this is not for us and we want to change that. You must see that a lot, that
Um,
sparkle in young people's eyes.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, since in the past 2 years, no, I haven't seen any young people's eyes. But yes, when
No,
I was,
well, okay.
I mean,
I think we
there's
should
been a
qualify.
a pandemic, so
Let's talk about the before time.
right,
I
right,
call
right,
it
right. But
the
hold
before
on.
time that we can't remember.
You said something that I thought was really great, actually.
Mm,
Maybe two things. So
mm.
you said that you know you were a certain person at 17, and then you came full circle.
Yeah,
And this is my pet theory, of course. I don't know if this is true or not, but I think that at the age of 17, we are who we are
yeah.
in a fundamental way, right? I mean, the
Yep.
world changes around us, technology changes and whatever, but we are who we are in a fundamental way, and so we're always trying to be that person. And if the world lets us be that, we'll be it.
Yep.
And so and the best of us, we get the chance to be that person, and the unfortunate people, they just have to kind of get a job,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
so you were the kind
Or
of
they end
person.
up, oh, sorry, in
No,
contrast,
go ahead.
yeah, because in contrast to that, because I think a lot about this, the meaning of life is 42. I'm sure you know this. But
No,
um,
what do you
uh, uh, no, but you figure
it's
this
not,
out. It's a joke
okay.
from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but I think that it actually is true. I think you
Okay,
hit that
okay.
age. But my father died of 60 from drink like alcohol like disease, like
Hmm.
cirrhosis, liver cancer. I don't know if you've seen Shameless, but he was a Frank, right?
Yes, I
And
saw that.
he,
Yes, yes, yes.
you know, and but that was I actually realized that my dad was like me. He was different, but in a world that just didn't. He. I think you can choose for it to either eat you alive or eat you on the inside, or you adapt. You find a way to adapt or fit in,
Hmm. Hmm.
or you just end up like me and just go, "No, fuck it. I'm just going to do things my own way." Sorry, can I swear on your channel? I just realized. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, no, go ahead.
Australian.
Please,
Sorry. Oh, no, no,
be
I'll
yourself.
try.
I
I
don't
just
think it matters.
realized,
It doesn't matter.
no,
Go
no,
ahead.
I
Go ahead.
need to be more mindful. And also just asterisk Australian. um, but so yeah, no, so I think you can either, you are fully formed. I mean, psychology, it proves that a lot of this is genetic. It's a combination of environment, but some of it is genetic, like at least a large portion of personality in particular. Again, a lot of it comes from genes, right? A
Mhm.
large portion. But also, obviously, environment, nature, and that whole, again, this whole cleavage, nature, nurture, both can be true at different times. Lots,
Mhm.
lots of, yeah, it's just like, it's always both. Um, and, but yeah, so what was it? I can't remember what the question was. I got distracted by thinking that
No,
I
I was
was, see,
saying,
this is,
that I was
you
giving you a
triggered my
compliment in a
weirdo.
way.
Yeah, you triggered
Um,
my weirdo reflex, which is that, oh no, I did a faux pas. Oh shit. And then my like, yeah, because of the swearing.
well, it
So
just
I
means that
just,
we're
yeah,
talking weirdo, because
exactly.
we're
Exactly.
both a little bit different. But
Yeah.
I was saying, I was giving you a compliment, I believe,
Yes.
in that you were something at 17, and you kind of, as you said, came full circle and became that eventually. And I was saying
Eventually.
that the best of us get the chance to do that. I should say best, maybe the lucky of us.
Lucky. Fortunate. I don't
Yeah,
believe in
yeah, yeah.
luck, but fortune is, yeah.
Okay, so the
Mm,
fortunate of us. So
mm,
yeah, no, that's cool. That's really cool. And I'm glad that you are who you would like to be now. So that kind of leads us into the next question in a way.
mm.
So how do you spend your free time these days? What is Taya Smith doing now?
Well, I don't actually have a lot of free time because most of it is spent there, like just thinking. I think that if you work in a thinking or creative kind of career, I'm sure it's hard to switch off. I'm sure you're like, when you're
I
in
work
that
all
kind
the
of,
time. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and also when you feel driven by ideas and creative, and there's always, I'm the kind of person walk into a library and I get stressed because I know I'm never going to be able to consume it all. Right?
Hmm.
And that's why with the internet was great for me because there's just all this information, and curiosity, and so I'm always just going, what about this, what about this, what about this. But in my spare time, I actually just enjoy playing games, like video games and stuff. Like I play Borderlands 3, just sitting back, farming for the perfect weapon. That kind of just silly stuff. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but also I like mindlessness. I don't achieve that as much as I can. I would like, but yeah, I'm always doing something. But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's not a
All
lot
right.
of free
So
time.
I'm going to fill in the gaps here a little bit,
Yes.
and then allow you to maybe tell me what's important to you, or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Looking at your web page,
Mm.
which is a very good one. In fact, maybe can I show that here? I'm gonna try. I like
If you
resharing
like.
because it gives us the option to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So hmm. I think like
It's not
this.
done.
No, but it's good though. It's good though. So all right, let,
Yeah.
let me let me share. But what
I
I'd like
spend
to
my
do,
free time finishing my
uh-huh.
website.
Okay, finishing.
Yeah.
Well, what else you got to do? All right, so I'm gonna. Okay, so that's your website.
Yeah.
But what I liked actually was the timeline, and so
Oh, yeah,
I
it's on
just
the
wanted.
about page. Yeah. Oh, is that not working, the about?
Oh, it's just my it's just too much
Yeah.
going on. It's too bad. It's too bad. Let me try again.
I
Oh
was
wow.
messing with the menu yesterday. Yeah. That's all
Oh,
right.
it's not working. It's too bad because you got this timeline, and I learned
Yeah.
so much about you, and it's a
I'll give
really
you the link.
compelling timeline. I mean, it's really good.
Mhm.
So it's unfortunate that I can't show it.
No, yeah,
It's really unfortunate.
people can have a look. It's on. If
Yeah.
you go to the about / about, you can then click on the timeline from there. I'm
All right,
still
let's try
working on
that.
things. Yeah, yeah, I'm
Oh,
still working on it.
I think
So
uh,
that's
my
why I was like, oh no, don't show it because I haven't finished and it might be broken.
I saw it earlier, so something tells me there's something on my end. Well, anyway, it's
Yeah,
not working, so I
no.
won't worry about it too much. But yeah. Um, Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is it gonna come up now? Did I put it in a different window? Oh no, it's still not working. Forget it.
Mm, that's all right.
Okay.
You can have a
So
look.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna oh,
Hang on.
can you do it? Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
Should be able to. Yeah.
But you got to share it so that
Yeah, yeah. I will. I'll just be.
mhm. So what I liked
So,
about it was that I learned so much about you. Like I learned about
mm.
your jobs. You're in IT,
Oh, yeah,
human
yeah.
resources. You kind of talked about being a child protection worker, which was
Oh, that was stressful. Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah. Um, you you studied university. I'm sorry, you studied at university politics and law. You can
Mm-hmm.
sing,
Uh,
um, and um,
not
and you're very
anymore.
geeky. What do you mean not anymore? What happened? You can't sing anymore?
Well, much like any muscle, you got to keep those things active. Otherwise, it's sort of
Oh, really? I thought it
really
was like a kind of natural talent. You can just wake up in the morning and get in the shower and just start belting stuff
no,
out. Doesn't work like that.
no.
Oh,
One
okay.
second. Sorry, I am just making share screen window.
Well,
Now, I'm normally more technical, but I'm stuck on Windows and I don't know how to do things on it.
okay.
So,
That's it. That's
oh,
it though.
sorry, is that okay?
That's the timeline. So,
Yeah.
um, someone who's watching this now or later should really
Mm.
look at this timeline because you're talking about some experiences on the internet that
Mm.
I think are worth talking about. Now, here we're going to focus more on now and the politics,
Yeah.
but I think that it's
Ugh,
really
yeah.
something. I mean, you were like I don't know, like mobbed or
Oh,
doxxed or
yes.
something.
Yeah,
I mean that's
yeah.
really something.
I've been through all of this, and thankfully for me, I think I was. It happened to me before that it was such that had such scale and velocity to
Mm,
it. Like Justine Sacco was one of those very famous
that's right.
early Twitter, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
But that was I think a couple of years even after it happened to me. Like
Okay.
this was early, so and often I look at those experiences, knowing what has happened and what that feels like, and that informs a lot of how I feel and interact now, which is that I will never dogpile, like in any way. I try. I mean, we're not perfect. I'm human,
Mhm.
a lot of this stuff it comes from a place of experience, right? Did you want me to just scroll? But I can,
Oh, no, no, no,
yeah,
it
yeah.
it was
I
more
don't.
just to
I get sick of
show,
looking at my own work.
that's okay, that's okay, you don't have to say much
Yeah.
about it, but
Mm,
there's just some key things. I mean, one is the fact that, yes, you had these people kinda coming at you online, but another thing was that did I read it right that you almost died twice?
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've had
I
health
haven't almost
problems over
died
the years.
once. So, I'm sorry, say again? Say again? You had
Yeah,
what?
I've had health problems, so a surgical complication that had me in a pretty precarious situation, and then Yeah, so I've lived a bit. I've lived some, but also, yeah, it's a lot of it is just how the internet has sort of been this weird support system along the way, which
Yes, I
that's
noticed
that's
that. You
a
know.
lot of this. Yeah, I found my people this way, and I think that that's why I've got a lot to say about sort of that the isolation component of this stuff as well, which is people's removal from their online networks and bans and those sorts of things is actually
Mhm.
something that people again don't think through stages 3 to 10. They think through 1 and 2, not necessarily the rest. And if they
Okay.
did, they would probably conduct themselves differently, and those sorts of things. So, but we can stop screen sharing this.
Yeah, sure, no
But
problem.
people, I can send a link. But yeah,
Okay. No,
um,
no, they'll find you.
all I see is faults in my work. It's what makes me good. All I what's wrong with things. So anyway, um,
Okay.
so
Well, I mean,
mm,
that's great. I mean, learning about you before we start asking about your opinions on progressivism and
mm,
wokeism, I think is really important. I mean, to kind of get a
yeah,
sense of who the person is and the complexity of everybody, right?
mm.
So now, what kind of liberal are you?
This
Téa
was a
Smith.
question I was sitting there going, this isn't a very American question to ask because
Oh,
in
really?
Australia the Liberal Party is actually our right wing party.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I would say that I'm probably in the European tradition, not in the again there's differences.
Hmm.
Probably like the revolutionary socialist type, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
in again, I believe in peace, non-violent revolution, right?
Okay, hold on, Miss
Um,
Smith. I need or Taya.
mm,
I'm so
Taya, call
formal.
me
I'm sorry.
Taya.
Yes, of
Yes,
course.
that's fine.
Give me 1 second. I'll be back.
That's fine. Should I keep talking while Rod's not here? Hello, everybody. I don't know if there's anybody. I can't see the panel here if there's any people. But oh, we've got some spammers. Let's have a look at the chats. Okay, so YouTube's got some bots going. Okay, is there any way of blocking this? No, I don't have admin. Sorry, guys. But yeah, anyway, this is awkward. Talk amongst yourselves. Let me check Twitter. Um, yeah, awkward. Um, if there's anyone who wants to chat, send me a message. No, all right. Seems to be a quiet morning. It's all good. The bots are on fire today. That's good. I don't think that this person is real because they're all Russian. Anyway, people really need to know, right? Well, I've got a captive audience here. You're arguing with bots more than you realise. And this is, we'll talk about that later. But a lot of people are just being nudged by bots.
All right.
I was just having a chat to the Russian spammers that are on the YouTube channel because I
Oh,
can't
really?
actually.
Okay, good. Well,
And
okay,
I
we're
was trying
giving
to
them some
think, I'm like,
content. Yeah.
talk amongst yourselves, Russia. I think there's actually a lot of. I was saying there's a lot of bots and a lot of very sophisticated AI that actually tries to radicalize and nudge people with those accounts. And I
Hmm.
think, given the current situation, people should be aware that they're going to be nudged to support this stuff on Ukraine. They're going to be nudged to support certain things. It's very interesting to see that stuff playing out. When you're in my and you've got like this sixth sense for this. It's not a sixth sense. It's actually like professional instinct and experience. I've got to stop saying that, but you'd be surprised how much you are talking to a bot.
Okay. Well, you know what?
Anyway,
I agree with you. I think there are a lot of
yeah.
people online who I'm communicating with who are not just. Actually, no. I didn't think of them as bots, but it's more like
Well, the troll
people who
farms.
are trying. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Mm.
But okay. So I'm sorry, but I had to go to
Yeah, liberal.
the little boy's room.
That's
So
fine.
so yeah, you were saying that this is a very American question because
Yes.
liberal is the right in Australia. So
Yeah.
what would the left be called in Australia? Just the left?
Labor.
Labor Party. Okay.
But again,
So
that's a big difference in the tradition, which is that we've got a very strong tradition in sort of like labor movement. During the gold rush, strikes, bush rangers. They're a big part of Australian history. That sort of working class stuff. So, and also because we're a prison colony, we kind of got that. That in our DNA. I mean, I'm of English parents, so it's a bit. I'm not obviously not. It's not in my DNA, but culturally speaking, that's the environment. That's we're very. I mean, that's changing again. Said cultural hegemony is sort of shifting that, right? Shifting public opinion, in that direction, which is why I'm interested mostly in nudges, and but the. Can't remember. Oh, so in terms of the Liberal, so for me, I understand what you mean because obviously,
right.
Political science. I have quite a politically, I'd say I sympathise with the stories of people like Thomas Paine, but their story, their overall story, not their work, but their story. So Gramsci's story, Marx. I'm very schooled in the traditional stuff. Thomas Paine, the people who were kind of. They were rat bags and they were outside of things. And then they were considered right and they kind of suffered for others. So that others, you know what I mean? Like there was kind of like during their time, they were misunderstood. They weren't necessarily, J.S. Mill, I'm a big fan of John Stuart Mill, that kind of liberal, right?
Okay. All right.
In the sense that John Stuart Mill became a socialist later in life. They won him over, right? And his definition of like, if I take your definition loosely, right? Now I'm sure you might have again, this is where I think you'd be surprised the different paradigms that we both sit in, and that, like we use different words for things that when I qualify and I say the European tradition of this meaning of this word. I make sure I say that because they are different.
Okay. Wait. I think that I made a mistake. So maybe I could ask it in a different way.
Yeah.
So instead of what kind of liberal are you, what kind of
Yeah.
leftist are you? Maybe that's
Leftist.
better. Yeah.
I would say that I'm further left than most people. I think that in the last 2 years, I think you can't see penis-shaped rockets in the middle of a pandemic and not be very clear on what your politics are. I think you've become very clear. Jeff
Explain.
Bezos's rockets.
Oh, I see.
Jeff
Okay.
Bezos,
Selling the trips to the moon. Okay. I see.
it's just
In
it's
outer space.
crass. It's crass. Like it was a literal dick. It was a capitalist dick pic as far as I'm concerned. It was just, and I think you get a very clear sense when you because unfortunately and fortunately for me, because I study the online part of this stuff, the discourse, the culture wars, all of that stuff, I see a fire hose of pain and trauma all day, every day. Okay, I don't see it. I see, all I see, because when you understand the psychology of this online discourse, people lash out in different ways. They're trying to control from fear and trauma and pain, and they're trying to be heard. They're trying to, and then this guy who supposedly has access to all of the world's data can't read the room.
Interesting.
All the data in the world,
Okay.
and he has no ability to read the room. I find that fascinating, don't you, philosophically?
Yeah. I expected that, but I also understand that it's really stupid. Yes.
I'm
It's a
saying
little bit of both.
I expected it too.
Yeah.
Because my problem is, and this is the problem with, I tend to try to be charitable, but this is the problem with charitability, is that you sit there and I know why. I worked in tech. This is why I quit. This is why I'm very clear about saying I don't do this anymore, because I was, again, that comes back to that 17-year-old thing where I was told that if I played nice and I did this and I leaned in and I did all the things, and gradually that corporate stuff, and they tell you you're going to change the world and you're going to do good, but over time I was developing products, I was developing prototypes, I was pitching all of these things, and I learned very quickly that startup was not for me. I was not part of that. They told me I was. And this is where I think the bait and switch with this sort of, the inclusion being sort of a paintbrush sort of woke washing, all that stuff. It's a way for them to get away from the real stuff. And I go, you're lying. I worked with these companies. You're lying. It doesn't, it's just, yeah. So anyway, that's partially, again, if you know my story and my background, you'll understand how I came to this view.
Okay, so you're more of the,
Yeah.
a little bit more taxation, a larger government, more social services, this type of leftist.
No, well, yes, sort of.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
the policy. That's the how. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So again, probably just my world in business. I always go, everyone jumps to the end before they jump to the why, or they jump to the sort of the vision that they have, or their values, or who they are as a person. Like for me, I think Australia particularly, has since the 80s lost, and this is not nationalism, this is just how it is, culture, right? Is that a sense of really of shared identity, and what we have in common, and what our shared
Okay.
interests are, and
Yeah,
making
yeah,
sure that,
yeah, yeah.
again, there's collectivist thinking, but I wouldn't necessarily tie it to one policy. Like, I believe this is one of those problems, I think, where of specialization particularly, but also schools of thought, cleavages, all those things, and which is that pluralism, all those things, they turn it into some zero-sum game. I think maybe it's the difference between political science policy work and like child protection, and the work where you're on the ground and you see the impact of policy on a
Mhm.
day-to-day basis, and you see all of the interests sort of working together, working in competition, all those things. You see all of that stuff. And it's in business, stakeholder management. It's very similar. I'm sure you have that at a university where you've got lots of competing schools and competing needs for competing resources and all that stuff. And it becomes this sort of zero-sum game rather than, how do we figure out what our shared goals are? How do we meet those goals together? How do we, how do we make sure that people aren't left behind? That needs to be the vision. You get what I'm saying? I think that people tend to get tunnel vision around concepts, especially in theory. That's one of my big criticisms, I think, of academia, is that I can't do it. I'm too general now. I'm too cross discipline to actually tolerate that work, because yeah. But anyway, I'm saying it's like this whole sort of or rather than and operator in everything that we do. And to get back to your question, which is that but I'm saying that when you think about the whole body of knowledge, not to get too, I sound mental, but I'm just saying, well, I'm not. This is why I have no spare time.
Because you're always thinking.
Unless I'm on ketamine in surgery. No, but which is that my frustration is this idea that people, like, it comes back to that imperfect allies thing, which is that we're on board. And when you're in a business and you've got a problem to solve, I'm more about rallying around a problem using absolutely everything and everyone and every resource at your disposal to help the person in front of you with their specific need and their specific problem in the best possible way that's going to give the best possible outcome. So it's not so much about capitalism, socialism, all those things. For me, it's probably more pragmatism. I'm just more pragmatic.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
let's be pragmatic. I mean, give me an example of what you
Sorry,
mean
I
here.
furrow my brow like I'm angry when I'm really.
No, it's okay. Your audio has gone out. So, yeah.
One sec.
Okay, you're back. You're back.
Okay. Sometimes my mixer. Yes. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So
Goes to speak.
are you good? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, give me an example of how, it's too theoretical and you want to be
Yeah.
practical and specific.
I think that theory should inform action. I don't
Okay.
think that,
All right.
and
Yeah.
I understand that, and I think that, again, I think this is just being between worlds again, always between worlds, which is, going from um, a really kind of impoverished and whatever childhood into the university system, where I was working 2 jobs and doing, because I was, running in student politics, I was politically active. And the student union. I don't know if you have student unions, but the
Yes.
student
Yes. Yes.
union. Oh, okay, cool. So I was the education vice president. So very interested in that kind of policy around funding and all that stuff. Right through, then being introduced to the professional class of the left for the first time in my life, right? Which was, as a working class kid, like these kids that had all the spare time in the bar to talk about ideas and not necessarily doing stuff. And so for me, that was always, again, it informs your politics. Your experience informs your politics, right? You are not your politics, but your politics is you in a sense. And that's why I find it bizarre that people can just shift parties, but that's a whole other side point. But it's if you really know who you are and you know what your values are and what your experiences are, you're always anchored like into that some sort of reality. And that's why I think my frustration with some areas of academia, okay, which is that they have created a product that's largely been driven by demand through the online fandoms and this sort of all of this stuff. Yes, there's a market for it and it's there, but it's not the only school, right? A lot of it is, this is not the only school. You're not the first to think of this stuff. There's still rules. There's all this stuff. There's still and there's also still a policy at the end of the day that needs to be governed. And I try to engage in ideas. I love it. It's part of the toolkit. Awesome. Let's file that here let's file it. It's interesting. I love it. Let's use this stuff to find the data to, help focus data, because I find that that's the role it should play, these schools, which is, they work all together with each other to, again, I know people are left out. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying generally it's an ideal that it's a goal, not a, it's never set. It's a process, not a destination, right? And so I can't remember where I was. I always go on tangents. I'm very sorry.
That's okay.
But in order to define my thinking, when you say what kind of leftist, for me, my allergic reaction is to have those. I would say that I'm very firmly on left-wing thought, but that is because I'm pragmatic. And because I believe in good policy and bad policy, fair policy, not fair policy, policy that follows a fair and inclusive process, and policy that doesn't. And that just happens to fall largely on the left in terms of being truthful, all those sorts of things. And so that's when I say what kind of leftist, it's a tricky question for me to answer, because for me, I go, well, that then excludes another whole toolkit on the other side that might have an answer to a different problem.
Interesting. Okay, so you're almost a
like for me
in a way when you take that
no, God, no, I hate the word centrist.
Oh wow, I don't like it either, but I'm surprised that you hate it. But okay.
No, because that apply that again buys into this whole notion of horseshoe theory, which is bull. Horseshoe theory is a psyop. It's not even a thing.
What is horseshoe theory?
Horseshoe theory is and also the political compass. So models are models, right? But they're also models that come from somewhere. Again, there's that American American-centric like notion of what politics are, which is that marrying Marxism with authoritarianism, and that's just a given. That's taken as a given. It's like, well, that's not actually very fair to the Marxist school of thought, right? In that, that left authoritarian thing. Horseshoe theory is something that happened after Stalin, to try and create a false equivalency between Stalin and Hitler, right? On the political, like somehow because they were communist and because they were over here, whereas fascism actually, if you know sort of your political theory, fascism sort of sits outside of that. Okay, so it's a sort of outside.
Stalin and Hitler, they really, those two those two political systems were at odds with each other historically.
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, again, there's just parts that are left out that is selective, and a lot of these models have that stuff built in, the bias built in, which is that sort of And when you understand, like, again, this sounds like conspiracy stuff, and it's a lot of information, but it's like, a lot of these things come out of Americans' universities, and they sort of in the outside world, the world outside of America. There's a whole rich body of thought, like psychology, particularly like personality disorders. Like a lot of the Russian psychologists dispute that, and they say, well, we can't actually replicate this in outside of a capitalist setting. Like we can't replicate these personality disorders and mental illnesses that you're calling mental illnesses. If
That's
you give them what
interesting.
they need. Yeah, yeah. So there's, again, when you take in lots of different ideas and you go, okay,
Mhm.
okay, I'm not in a school. I'm not here to produce thought for those who tell me what to think. I'm here to go, this is why I find libraries stressful. But I'm just saying, right, you go, all right, what's the best toolkit for us right now? And you go, okay, what's the best? Like, again, that's, again, when you come from tech, you go, okay, well, there's people who fight over whatever language that they're going to use. And they're either, it's just when you double down on something and you have a fixed mindset that your way is the right way, it automatically closes you off to possibilities. Does that make sense? And that's where I go, well, when
I'm
you're
not
in
entirely
policy,
sure. So wait, all right, all right.
hmm.
There's a lot going on here, and so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanna
I
I
know.
wanna
Yeah,
eventually give my views
I'm
about what kind of
go
liberal
ahead. I'll
I
let you
am.
talk for 2 seconds.
But before I give
It's
my
what I do
views,
best.
I
Yeah.
still want to be clear about, because this is interesting to me, this idea of horseshoe theory. Like,
Mm.
I mean, just kind of give me a broad overview. Like,
Have you heard of it?
I mean, you say horseshoe, so it's like I'm imagining that if two
Oh,
things
sorry. I
are
moved
sort
on.
sort of near, then we're saying that they're the same. I mean, but
Yeah.
but maybe that's wrong. I don't know.
Well, they're not near. So imagine a horseshoe, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. So what it did was it maps communism over here, okay,
Okay.
and fascism here. And the idea is that um, this is where it comes to like is linked to centrism, because the idea is being at the center is so far is the furthest away from these two things, which is not really factual,
Oh, I
right?
see. Okay,
Yeah.
I see. All
And so
right.
it creates a visual. Again, it's that thought terminating cliche in the form of a political model, right? Which
Mhm.
is that they go, yeah, of course, both violent, both violent. Here's the semiotics of this horseshoe image is not an accident. It creates in people's minds,
Mm.
because ideology and political theory is dense, boring, difficult, cross
Yes, yes,
disciplined.
yes.
Yes, yes,
All
yes.
that.
I bore the pants off everybody the second I start going into theory, right? And but the horseshoe is easy. It feels true. It feels intuitively true. But when you actually unpick that in a post-war period, you go, well, what you're doing is equating Hitler and Stalin when they're very different situations. You know,
Yes,
they're extraordinarily,
very
and there's a
different.
lot of, also remember the victors write history, and they write these things in their own favor, and there's a lot of facts around the end, like ironic, like that Stalin helped end World War II against Hitler, like like there's all those little things that like conveniently get left out with these false equivalencies. And that's, again, it's not a uniquely American thing, but it is something that I've found, it's a frustration, because a lot of it is for or against or this or that zero sum thing. you
Okay.
know i,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's
no.
linked to polls and polling, and that you just kind of always that sort of, it's like, well, how do you can't, yeah, I just
I
find that stuff quite
Okay.
frustrating.
Yeah, no,
um
no. I understand
yeah, so when
totally.
you
I
say
mean, yeah,
centrist,
yeah. Uh-huh.
the word centrist is loaded because it implies being independent when it's actually still, it's just neoliberal politics. Centrism is still same old, but I have no real, again, and I know that you guys define that as independent. It's more what we'd call independent, I think. It's more like independent. You're not registered, because I know you guys pre-register to vote for a political party,
Yes, yes, yes.
whereas we have a preferential system where we just rank choice is what you guys call it, which is that where you can where every vote gets counted. So, even minor parties and all that stuff. So we've got a different system. So you
Mhm.
guys have to like, is
I
that
think
word,
it's a better system,
identify
actually.
with a
But
political
yeah.
party. Yeah.
Mhm.
You identify with a brand, you identify with a political party. And, that's, again, just a different milieu, I guess, to work from. So,
Okay.
um,
All
yeah.
right. So look,
Sorry.
no, no, no,
I'm
no
talking
problem. I
theory.
mean,
I hate being boring with this stuff, but
I
um,
think it's important. I mean, and I
okay.
think
Yeah.
people want to kind of get a sense of where you're
Mm,
coming from, and what this idea is of horseshoe theory. So, okay, this is how I characterize myself, and I guess I've thought about it so much now until I can kind of, you know parcel it down to like bullet points. But I am a socially conservative person,
okay.
but economically progressive. and my social conservatism is voluntary. Like I don't want the government to impose
Yeah.
something on someone, and so that puts me very much on the left, because I think my
Yeah.
economic progressivism, I want the government to be involved. Like I'm fine with taxes. I'm fine with government services, and in fact, I want more of them here in the U.S. I think that we kind of suck when it comes to these things. So
What
so
about
so, so that's
healthcare,
where.
where that's both?
Say again.
What about something like healthcare, where it's both social and economic?
So to me, I put that uh, clearly in the economic bin, right? In that we need to have universal health care, and people
Mm.
should have free preventative and
Yeah.
services. So yeah, I mean, and I think in other countries that's just like a kind of normal thing.
Yeah.
But
But it's not. It's
but,
not.
but
It's not it's not a partisan issue. It's actually, well, that's changed, but that's also changing too. Whereas,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
a lot of this stuff, like Americans don't realize that how dominant the culture is everywhere else, and how that gets it once it gets into the zeitgeist, it gives governments a mandate, like here as well, to erode those institutions. So, we used to have a fairly universal healthcare system and education system, but that's being gradually eroded over time as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, because our dollar's linked to the American dollar, and our economy is very very dependent on that goodwill. And again, it's not a conspiracy. It's just,
Hmm.
I would say it's how capitalism functions and works, but there's those that would disagree with that. Um, but yeah, I've always been. I think I was. I'd say that you probably is a libertarian socialist. So libertarian, like that,
Interesting.
because socialism is. And when you say, that was actually the next part of me getting back to the question, which is when you
Okay.
say liberal. Okay, I think liberty. Okay, and that becomes a conversation about liberty and what that means. And like, they're not at odds with socialism is the libertarian. Like that, there's a big argument that Marx was a libertarian. Like that was,
Mm.
it's something that's been taken as a given, that it's authoritarian, which is not even true. Which is that we just believe that if everyone's basic needs are met, they're more likely to be free and able to pursue their interests and be more innovative and creative. It doesn't mean there's no market. It's just that people own their own labor and all of those sorts of things. So it's that same that's where I find that. And the anarcho-capitalist guys, those ANCAPs,
Hmm.
and the voluntarist stuff, right? And voluntarism, American words. That's basically anarcho-syndicalism. It's just rebadged America style. It's funny just to see that,
Yeah.
because the misunderstanding of what socialism is so in the fabric of American politics, that you guys think that your political compass is just off whack. If you, yeah,
I
it's
might be
just,
that kind of person because I don't think about
yeah.
socialism that much. So it might be that my
No,
compass is off way.
I
You
think no,
might be
I think
right.
people, yeah, and also that much like we learned the Australian, because we got that hybrid system between the UK European tradition, common law,
Hmm.
all that sort of stuff, and like the US system. So we've got that hybrid system. So we kind of designed ours with the best of both worlds, lessons from the mistakes of both. That's something Americans don't understand either,
Could
because
it be
they go,
the
"You don't have
worst
a
of both
you don't
worlds?
have a Bill of Rights. There's something wrong with you." I go, "No, we considered that and said no."
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
Anyway, I'm
Fair
just
enough.
joking. That's for the Americans and the Australians in the audience. Yeah. I
All
give them a
right.
chew
Okay.
toy. A chew
Well, look.
toy. Um,
Let's move on.
yeah.
It's interesting. So we've been talking for an hour.
Oh gosh,
And
sorry.
yeah, no, I mean, it just means that you have a lot to say, and that's what makes you interesting. Um, so all right, let's keep moving here a little bit. You wrote a piece that's on your
Mm,
website, and
yes.
I kind of shared it on my timeline, and
Thank
I
you.
thought it was interesting.
That made me a bit nervous.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that, Miss Smith. I mean, I think it's an interesting piece actually, because
Yeah.
there's some personal. So something like this happened to me in a weird way. But
Hmm.
but first, I would like you to just generally tell me, what do you mean by the gentrification of the left?
Okay. So I don't like the pejorative wokeism. Okay.
Hmm.
I feel that is first of all offensive to, if you know the history of the word, it's offensive, right? I don't like it. It's racist. Second of all,
Wokeism is racist?
no,
Wait
no,
a
the
minute.
word. No, 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 not
The
wokeism.
word woke
The
is
word
racist
as a pejorative. So
as a pejorative.
the
Okay.
origin of the word was for was to be woke, which was to be aware of systemic racism in the United States, like to be woke.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
the
that's kind
and
of
then it got
yeah,
and
social
one
issue.
thing I
Yeah.
noticed. So what happens, and I don't know whether this is a strength or a weakness because I tend to suffer quite a lot for it socially. But my strength is that when I'm curious about something and there's data on something, I don't instinctively just trust the spreadsheet. I go in. And so, like this, so this culture war stuff was happening. And someone threw an argument, like, I don't know if you're aware of the gender stuff on the left. It is insane.
Yeah,
It is
yeah, a little bit.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's kind of like, that gif with Grandpa Simpson, where he walks in and just circles out and circles back out of the bar, like because he sees Bart, that gif. Oh, anyway.
No,
So
I
like
haven't seen
in,
it.
see what it is, and just walk straight back out again. If I'd known what I know now, I would not have touched it. Right.
Okay,
But
okay.
unfortunately, because I felt like there was some misunderstanding or injustice, and this is the thing I go through, is that I charitable, I assume people don't know what they're misled. They don't know. They're
All right.
mistaken about
So
something.
you're telling me something that
So
happened
yeah. So
that
when
that spurred the idea to write this piece.
Yes. So this
Okay,
has
okay.
been coming for 5 years. I'm only just because the first time I started to write something, I was warning about the threat of authoritarianism on coming from the left. I was warning about that there was a
Mhm,
threat
mhm.
there from 3 years ago. Okay. And I realized that I was catastrophically wrong there as well. And I went, okay, next time I
Okay.
write, well, not catastrophically, I was in the right direction, but the answer was in the question. Okay. Which was very interesting. But I went, okay, I can't write about this until I know, until I'm confident, because that's embarrassing it's really embarrassing. Sometimes being charitable can lead you down a path or curious can lead you down a wrong path. That's why, anyway, it can lead you down to have the wrong conclusion. And then you go, no, that's not quite right. And you can only learn that by going in and doing it. And that's what I've done with this culture wars, MAGA, Trump, post-Trump. The internet lost its mind. I think we can all agree that everyone's brains turned to scrambled eggs, right? Like everyone on all sides is just everything started to just go in terms of political conversations online tribes. Because I've run
Okay.
communities, I know, okay, this is, again, it's more the power of the observation of being on the ground that is not in academia or anything like that, okay? When you're on the ground, you're used to building things. There's patterns that you know how users behave, you know how community members behave, you know how to deal with conflict, conflict resolution, you know how to moderate that community, you know how to manage it. Okay. So for me, from coming from marketing and that background, like moving into my online persuasion marketing, it's all sales, right? Politics is sales as well. Coming from that, I went, this is broken and I don't know what happened. Like, not, oh, he got elected, the world's ending. I actually went, this thing's broken. Like,
Okay.
this something's off and I can't understand why. And I started,
The thing being the discourse on the left.
it became, no, just discourse in general,
Just
but
okay, okay,
toxic.
okay.
But also, I went through a personal experience with my own child where, she got it, like, just the wrong end of the intentions and the stick, and things were just off. There was a sort of again, it's one of those things where when I say this is, saying this is how I felt. I can explain
Okay.
what happened, but
Mhm,
basically, when I'm getting to the answer to the question, but I think it's important to give context because it's not
mhm.
something that hasn't been really. I've been through the ringer with this thing, and I'm reporting back from a war zone. I feel like I'm so tired from this. Um, but it's just I felt like going undercover. It really did. Um, but basically, I went, something's really, I saw these comment sections just go crazy where people were like lifelong friends of 20 years, people that I'd been on the internet with from 1994, just suddenly blocking each other and all of this over
Mhm, mhm.
relatively minor things. Okay, so that sort of psychic injury was just getting more and more destructive. Like you'd usually block someone for a day or something, right? And then they go, and you, oh yeah, blocked. But this was just, and it was heading into, and I'm sure most people who watch this will agree that they've seen this in their families, and they've seen this getting worse and worse and worse and worse in politics. Now, this is again the Australian point of view, because this could be normal for American families. It could be normal for American political
Mm.
discourse. But something has gotten, and there was just this thing. I went, this is broken. Fuck. Sorry. That's the only word for it, because I just said, I just went,
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
and I just was perplexed. And I was like, well, I understand this. This is what I know to be true. This is how users behave. This is how you persuade people online.
Uh-huh.
But this is how but I always was in the ethical school. Okay. So I always did everything, white hat stuff. What I started to see was that this black hat stuff. So this is called like dark UX or dark design. So manipulations, these things that are sneaking into designs, like in communities. You might think of things like loot boxes in games or addiction. Tristan Harris has called it like the slot machines, right? The recommendation engines and those algorithms and stuff.
Okay, so
They
the
were,
platforms. Wait. To be clear, so
yeah,
the platforms were producing this negative behavior or facilitating it, maybe.
yes. So when
Okay.
I
Okay.
say, but also when I say, but not again, I think in defense of tech, they were like, they're all like me. We didn't know, it was a blind, it was just, we're catching up because we went, shit. I think we just went, holy crap. We didn't, like Cambridge Analytica, I could imagine what Facebook would have been like. They would have gone, what? We did not see this. Like, because again, I worked with these people. I know that they think they're doing good. I think they really believe that they're changing the world. They just have a big blind spot because they don't. Part of being an entrepreneur in tech is not thinking of the downsides to things. You have to have a crazy blind optimism that you're going to be the one chosen for $1 billion. There's a blind optimism that goes with that.
Right.
That's a
Right.
blind
Right.
spot. You get what I mean? You can't. Yeah.
Mhm.
So anyway, so that's just part of the psychology of a startup founder. But that's a whole other thing. But again, because I was between worlds and I was in tech and I was on the ground executing this, but also participating in the conversations and having a politics degree, just that weird combination of skills. But also then sort of seeing this all go sort of off kilter, being confused, seeing conversations become toxic, but suddenly seeing it sort of escalate into death threats and mob
Yeah. Yeah.
violence.
Yeah.
And
People get very upset online. Yeah.
again, it was like, holy shit, like I didn't do anything. Like it was something where it was just a weird, strange phenomenon. Okay. Now, also what I understand is having worked with big corporations. Now, this is part of the reason why I had to leave, because when you've been in digital as long as I have, you do all of it. You do branding, you do design, you do code, you got to do that whole stuff. I had an agency where we'd just do online, your full service, right? But what I saw was that there was a lot of pressure from the client on the client side in terms of optics, right? So this is a perfect storm. So corporate social responsibility was the buzzword in the day. So corporate,
Okay.
so we're not going to actually change anything. What we're going to do is try to do projects, and the buzzword was corporate social responsibility. The problem is that anything that was socially responsible for corporations cost them money. So what this engine became, and I can see it because I could see it, again, it's not whether it's correct or whether it's the right argument or whether the issue is important. It is absolutely whether it's useful. So in terms of like capitalism
Which makes sense
or
if you're in
tech,
terms of capitalism.
it's
Actually.
whether it's useful, okay,
Yeah.
whether it
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
exploited.
Mhm.
And so what I saw here was I saw so many times I've seen my own words come back to me because I'm so old in this industry. I see my own stuff come back to me because it was useful, and it's just, sort of goes through that laundry, and it's like comes laundered and comes back to me. It's quite funny.
Mhm.
But it's and it's usually explained at length in an essay on a LinkedIn comment by a dude. Just going to throw unsolicited essays. Sorry, I couldn't
It's
help myself.
mansplaining. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah,
mansplaining.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's I love you dudes, but no, we know. Anyway, so it's so I saw this weird perfect storm emerging, but I also had teenage girls, and I knew the fandoms and Tumblr and Harry Potterverse, and they were fans of things, right? Fans of the
Hmm.
scaffolding of the internet. And what happened was that a lot of this came out of the Tumblr fandom stuff. And there's this accusation that sort of universities are manufacturing this with the CIA. No, it was useful, because what it did was rich kids who weren't that bright, who had 100 grand to spend, needed a degree. It was a market for a product. Okay. And again, I'm not belittling the whole, again, I separate sort of, like the school, right, and the discipline. But we got to talk about that. Like education is not, what it used to be. There's a commercial imperative to university that, again, for profit stuff, right? When it's for profit, it's going to go that way. And also, so there was a demand created there for sort of, degrees that weren't necessarily, again, this is just what I'm saying, which is that rich kids who, maybe aren't terribly clever, going to sort of like, everybody benefits from it, right? It's not a conspiracy thing, it's just benefit. But again, so there was this whole thing around corporate social responsibility. I know that I probably am saying terrible things without meaning to, because I'm going back to context, which was, I saw this in corporations, which was, there was this whole narrative, which was this: everybody benefits if we tinker around the edges of this horrible, monstrous, psychopathic machine of globalization and capitalism that's out of control. It's just that kind of eating, it's like, it feels almost, so when I talk about the gentrification of the left, married with my own personal experience, again, I'm open to the idea that I'm catastrophically wrong. I have been several times. Okay.
Hmm.
Just through my discipline, just through what I understand to be true, and my area of expertise and 25 years of observation of the internet, which is that this discourse has acted as some sort of a diversion, chew toy, to keep people from like that sort of class consciousness that would, or working class organizing, and giving the left a lack of focus. Now, that's not me saying they're not important issues.
No. I get you. So let me say something now. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm
Hipster
noticing a
politics.
difference. Yes. Okay. So I'm noticing a difference in the way that we communicate things. So, all right. When I saw gentrification of the left, visually, I saw wealthy
Lockdown.
people moving into a poor space and kicking the poor folks out.
Well, they're doing
And
that too.
taking
Yes.
on the yeah. I mean that's what gentrification,
Yeah, that's the
means,
result.
in a neighborhood thing. So I was taking that analogy and I was saying, okay, cool. I can see this politically, where you've got these wealthy, highly educated people who are sort of adopting the pose of the progressive, but not really doing the things that is really important for progressives, right?
Yeah.
So they're kind of moving in the neighborhood and kicking out the real progressives.
They're taking the street
that's what I
cred without
saw.
the work. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you're very good at giving this context and explaining what's going on. I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, this is what's happening here. This is the problem, But
I was
look,
actually, because I wanted to make sure that people who are new to me and my thinking, right,
I see.
that it's well formed and that there is a process, and this took years. And the thing is that there's a lot of people who are new to this and they have the answers, and I go, you don't know, I've been through this, I know what this is, I'm right about it, I know exactly what it is, I can answer every part of it at length, as you can see.
Right.
But it's like, but also when you understand the geopolitics and what happened, like the CIA was like completely working on anti-communist, like Red Scare stuff all of the time. How do we get rid of like revolutionary activity? That's been the number one project of the United States government for so long, is anti-communism, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and again, classical communism, not sort of that idea. But in terms of economic organization, sorry to qualify, but it's I just wanted to make it clear that, and you'll see this play out on like blue check Twitter. You'll see this play out, which is that there's this kid that lives in $1 million mansion, right? And they're talking about, and again, I'm not saying allies aren't important. I'm not saying that it's always been the case. I've suffered through my career as a woman in tech being discriminated against. I built product, and it's like, well, okay, and suddenly there's this new thing that's still got rich kids in it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's still got the same club from university. And again, this is my
Okay.
experience in
Right, right,
my
right.
eyes, right?
But still, I
I'm
mean,
sure, yeah.
tell it how you feel it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's cool with
no,
me.
but I also have been on the ground in child protection. Now, I don't know but a big part of that casework is working with Australian Indigenous people,
Mhm.
right, who have had the most abhorrent, shameful treatment by our government in history, right? I don't know how much you know about Indigenous population in
Just a
Australia, but
little. Yeah, yeah.
socioeconomically, every indicator disadvantaged, right?
Hmm.
And also the rate, like it's all there's just this constant low grade racism in our country around this, which is it's like acceptable to what I mean. Like I'm sure I don't know whether Native Americans experience this too, where there's a
No, not really. There's a
no,
little difference, but
ours don't have casinos. If I can be glib.
no, 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 no. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, in some ways that we
Yeah.
assuaged our guilt by doing that. So look,
Yeah.
let me say a little
Anyway,
bit.
but
Hold on.
eyes and ears. Oh, sorry. I
It's
won't.
important because
Mm.
I think that you're saying something that can be condensed a little bit to this notion of
Always.
virtue signaling that a lot of people on the right talk about, where they're saying,
Yes.
look, you're doing these superficial things, and they use it, unfortunately, to say, look, there's nothing there.
That's the
There's no
whole
there
left.
there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's not, right? There's some really important things going on.
Yeah.
And so it's unfortunate. Look, there's something that you said in that piece. So, before we were recording, I believe you mentioned that it's interesting what people pick up out of
Mm.
something you write. And
Mm.
so I'm gonna narrate something here that happened to
Okay.
me.
Go.
In that piece, you're talking about how there's this pipeline from just asking questions online and then being stigmatized, called a racist or bigot or sexist or something, and then being loved bombed by the right, and then that
Oh yeah.
starts people off, right? And so, okay, and the point of all that, I believe, was to say that, look, you got these, the left is being represented by these hyper woke kids, and it's actually hurting us, right?
Mm.
And okay, so
Yeah.
which I kind of agree with. I understand totally.
Mm.
So this is what happened to me. Not that, but the dynamic was very perceptive.
Mm.
um it was intuitive, right? Insightful, I don't know what adjective I can use, but it was like, this kind of happened to me a little bit, Miss Smith. I was love bombed.
Mm.
So I may look to you, I don't know, how much you paid attention to my Twitter timeline, but I may appear to be this hyper leftist socialist sociologist black man from the United States,
No, you seem
but
rational.
wait a minute now. I'm not saying those folks aren't rational. Let's not say that. But I tend to have some
I'm kidding.
I tend to have some different views
The
that
humor doesn't
often.
translate sometimes. Sorry.
I see. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I probably didn't catch it. But
Mm.
I have some views that can sometimes go against my progressive mutuals. And this is the whole point of the critiquing the left title of this thing. So okay, I appeared, maybe in the words you're using, rational, to a lot of people who are on the center and right, and they loved bomb me. This was 2 years ago, or three, yeah, 2 years ago. I went from 500 Twitter followers to like maybe 5,000 because I was saying things that they thought, ooh, ooh, ooh. Here's this black guy who is on the left, but look at him. He is being critical of some of this stuff from wokeism and stuff. Follow, 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 follow.
Yep.
Now, I didn't go
You were
to
useful.
I was not radicalized,
Mm. Nope.
because that's not where I wanna go. But
Mm-mm.
when you wrote that about love bombing, I never thought of it that way, but that is exactly what happens. You've got these folks who say something online, people on the left, they cast they stigmatize them,
Mhm.
block them or whatever, castigate them, throw them
Shun.
out. Yeah, shunned. And then
Yeah.
there are these people on the right who go, "Oh yeah, 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 I agree with you, you're rational, you're looking at the data or something like that." And so they kind of start that progression, and then you talked about the Patreon and all that stuff. And I've seen this quite a bit. I think that's what happened to Jordan Peterson, and I think that's what happened to a lot of other folks.
Yep.
So to me, that was very, very insightful.
Mm.
And I'm glad that you wrote that.
Thank
So
you.
yeah,
Well, at
yeah.
least you can, because I think that a big part of this is it's quite crazy making as well. It can be like being gaslit is not fun for anybody, regardless of why and how. And I
Mhm.
think you know how there's something in your senses that feels off, but you can't quite
Right,
articulate what it
right, right,
is.
right, right.
And so, um, and that's what I'm trying to get to with people at the moment, but also what they don't understand. Because again, from that digital agency point of view, I go, I can see how this is just basic operant conditioning. And because on the other side of the business is that you've got influencer marketing campaigns where you'll be paying influencers to promote your product and all of that sort of stuff. And I went, well, why can't you just hyper? If I was a bad person, what's the things I would do? That was my thought experiment. What if I was not me and I didn't quit because of the unethical stuff that was
Mhm.
happening? This is why I quit, because I realized this was happening and I started talking about it and I got completely stonewalled out of my industry. They don't want to talk
Interesting.
about it. They won't
Wow,
talk about it because
wow.
they want it as part of their toolkit for when they do it. And they won't talk about dark patterns and the dark funnel, right? And it's a sales funnel. But what they don't realize is that the stuff that's being used for marketing and nudging and selling you the Kardashians, lipstick, makeup, I like that. That's fine. It's not benign, but at the same time, it's, the exact same tactic is being used to nudge you and reward you and yes, queen you into being radicalized in whatever direction, right? And I don't mean that, I say yes, queen, ironically, and I'm not, again, I try to stay away from the racial overtones because I'm acutely aware of that dynamic, right?
Listen. All right, all right. Stop.
No, 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 not
You're
you.
being so PC. I don't know
No, no,
why.
no, I
You're
mean,
making all
no,
these
no, no, not you,
qualifications,
not
but
you. No, no, we're
no, not
cool.
me, but just in general. I mean, the way that you're communicating. Like, look,
No, no,
to
I'm
me.
empathizing. No, because the thing that if I can get to the point, which is that
Oh, I'm
my
sorry. Go
biggest
ahead. Yeah.
problem is reaching those who won't want to hear me because
Right, right, right.
I'm saying one little wrong thing or one joke they don't like, and I go, no, you got to listen to the body of the overall message of what someone is trying to tell you, which is that like parts of history around the way fascism rose was that fascism exploits class anger and it exploits this rage and it exploits all those legitimate, absolutely valid. And that's the problem, is that I also understand that a lot of this stuff is completely and utterly valid. If you live, as a black kid in America, then you've got lots and lots of gripes. You get what I'm saying? Like, I understand that grievance, right? I get it. And that's the problem, is I try not to be glib about something that is someone's pain. And because when you're psych trained in this stuff, you go, shit, this is trauma. This is a funnel and a fire hose of pain that I have to listen to. It might come out as political, but most people, it's not about the politics, it's about the pain. And as people trying to, like with COVID, it's all a big fear response. Like, again, political psychology is where it becomes very tricky and interesting because you understand what's going on a little bit more. And you go, oh. But the problem is that stuff is actually being used by marketers in the background who have no scruples and no ethics, and troll farms and geopolitical forces, and it's just a playbook and a set of tactics that the cat's out of the bag, and I'm trying to put the cats back in the bag, not literally vegans. But this is all
Okay.
internet jokes. I'm just
I say,
jokes
yeah,
about
yeah.
who I might
Some of
piss
it's
off.
over
But
my head. Some of it's over my head.
yeah, that's fine. But yeah, it's just like I'm just acutely aware that some tribe's going to be upset with me at any given time, and there's going to be bots turned on and bots turned off. Now, what I'm interested with you is
Okay,
when
okay.
you cottoned on to what was happening, and you kind of stopped talking to that, or you started talking to slightly more um, um, interesting, like left people, or you sort of stood firm and realized that you probably couldn't be nudged in that direction. Was there a chill? Did it just sort of switch off, like they'd switched off or was it a gradual thing for you?
Well, so I think it started, well, first, it started by me writing a piece about being sympathetic to white Americans in the United States. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wrote that piece, and then the editor of that magazine sort of kind of promoted me a little bit, and that's how it started happening. And
Mm.
so, which I still believe, actually, we need to be
Yeah.
compassionate to everyone. But that doesn't mean that I'm all of a sudden going to imagine that we shouldn't be focusing on a lot of
Hmm.
progressive issues, whether it be race or class or gender. So what would happen on Twitter is those people had started following me, and then when I would post these things about race, class, gender, uh, ethnicity, sexuality, immigration, all these leftist things, then they would start having the back and forth with me. And because I'm an academic, I started by engaging.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, fine, let
Yeah.
me try and explain this. And then after a
Yeah.
while, it just got very frustrating. And they would start, not following me. I would start blocking them. And then, but it actually worked out okay. So I went
Okay.
from 5 to 5,000. Then I kind of leveled off for a while, and then I found my group, and
Mm.
so it's okay now.
Mm.
So, but to me, it was okay. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to stay on the left, and I wasn't going to pander to this. I mean, to me, it's weird. It's like, okay, fine. There's some problems with the left. You know, I
Yeah.
get it that people don't want to sit through diversity trainings and they have a hard time with pronouns. But come
Yeah.
on, at least in the United States, to me, there's no equivalent. We got like people on the right who are trying to, deny elections, right? They want to close the borders. I mean, forget it. It's just not
They actually
equivalent.
consider the government to be completely illegitimate. So of course they'd be interested in undermining all of it. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like
it's just
facts
it's just
just flew
crazy.
out of everyone's head. Like
It's
everyone
it's it's
forgot.
terrible. It's terrible. I mean, I'm not gonna have time to ask you about Joe Rogan because we're at an hour and a half.
It's kind of linking though, because Joe Rogan is playing this game. Okay, I'll just quickly say I have a
Yeah, yeah,
stream
yeah.
that's on my channel. People can watch it. I've talked about this. So I go,
I
well,
saw
where
it.
are the?
Yeah, yeah,
If you try to control this and censor everything, where are they going? Because if they're going to go somewhere, I'd rather it be Joe Rogan
yeah.
or Russell Brand or Jimmy Dore. I'd rather that than the horrible shit that I've seen. I'll tell you that now. Like I just think that people, it's just counterintuitive again. They haven't thought through step 3, which is where do they go if you block it all? They're going to do that. It's harm minimization. But also, what people have forgotten is I find it bizarre that we spent how many years trying to convince people about Monsanto and big tobacco and big oil and what they were doing, and they were like messing up the science and they were like manipulating, and big food and all those things. And then all of a sudden, everyone goes, "No, how did it happen?" You go, "Well, this is how, because you just selectively choose things, and
Hmm.
you've been co-opted and weaponized into something that you're not thinking clearly and critically." And it's like I'm cool with you coming to a different conclusion to me, and that's
Right, right,
wonderful.
right.
I'd love to hear that, but you've got to think clearly and not and consistently. And again, I'm not saying people aren't emotional beings and they don't make emotional decisions and all that stuff. And I'm
Hmm.
not. It's not. Again, it's not civility rational stuff. I think that's horseshit too. But I'm just saying that it's just I've had conversations, and some of them academic, some of them, and I've had conversation. Who are you? Like, who have you become? Like, what through this COVID thing? I go, you're mocking people that you would have fought for 10 years ago. Like, what's going on? Like,
Uh-huh.
what happened to you that this has gotten so in your head that
Hmm.
you don't automatically empathize with those people that are out on the street? Or that you don't trying to understand their story or understand how they get there, because I know how they get there, and a lot of it is because I've seen it, which is that you called them a turf, you called them a bigot, you called them racist, and then you blocked them, and they had nowhere else to go, and they ended up love bombed over here, and they read cynical theories, which is wrong. And it can be easily like addressed and debunked if you take the time to like learn, like I did 5 years, full
Hmm.
time, not tenured, just for free. And like I took the time and I went through this and I went, I'm gonna like this is not correct. It's not wrong. Sorry, it's not correct. Anyway, but it's like you need to engage. This is why I like Ben Burgess and people like that. It's like no, you got to engage this. You got to argue it because you don't understand that there's this whole campaign of marketing and troll bots. They've gotten very sophisticated recently. I've noticed this. It's basically like tumbleweeds on my Twitter account these days. That's how I know it's low. Like, because if I say something like culture warsy, 500, 700, 800 likes, shared, 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 shared. But anything that's remotely critical or intelligent or, this sort of stuff, analysis,
Oh, you got to cultivate the right
tumbleweed.
folks, though. You gotta, in. have a
Yeah.
little back and forth. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
look
no, but I'm
the
saying
bots are looking for
tumbleweeds.
something to yeah.
No, no, but I've actually I every so often they upgrade the bot on me. I actually feel like maybe on these agencies I'm sort of this weird like boss fight because I'm not sure if you've seen that episode of the South Park with Jimmy where he goes
No,
and he can spot all the ads. Remember that branded content? He's like he can just spot what an ad is without any ad, even if it's not. That's me, right? And I'm like that with bots. I can tell when it's a troll farm because again, I've been in this business. And
Mhm.
I'll reply to them and ask a little question that's a human kind of are you human type of question. But they'll continue like talking points, argument. And what I'll do is I'll break them a little bit because I'll yes and yes and yes and yes. And then I'll say, okay, what about this, and this? And then it just gets abuse. So they're like this weird, I think they're actually bots. They're not troll farms. I think they're actually very clever. I think people have gotten dumber, but bots are getting smarter and they're kind of meeting in the middle. It's getting harder to tell, right? We're devolving in the bot. But what's happening is that through this culture wars discourse the last 5 years, there's machines learning patterns and language patterns and linguistics and how to win an argument, how to lose an argument, how to get blocked, how not to get blocked. This is data-driven stuff, right? This is stuff that you can go and get a data set and go, okay, well, what gets you blocked? What particular pattern gets you blocked? What particular pattern doesn't? What makes them engage with you? Like this stuff's happening in the back end. And I go, that's really cool if you're trying to sell makeup. Not so great if you're trying to change hearts and minds and, like get people to do what you want them to do politically. You see what I'm saying? And that's the sort of the dark spot. So for me, I go, well, all right, what can I do? This sounds huge. This is massive. I can't fight this. No one wants to hear this. I go, okay, what I can do is focus on the patterns and focus on the specific tactics. I can focus on teaching people how to spot a bot, media literacy, all that sort of how critical. I go, this is what this is. Once people know what, like with cults and MLM, right? Most people know not to get the personality test at Scientology. They know that.
Mhm.
Every so often when someone's really vulnerable and feeling hopeless and all those things, they'll walk in because they've got no other hope, right? That's going to happen. I would hope that society would look after them so that they don't get there, but that's going to happen at the moment. But we can educate people that's not a test. That's a trick to get you into that track. You get what I'm saying? And that's the same thing that's happening online with nudging politics. I use Charlie the Unicorn, a very famous viral video, to explain the concept of nudging, right? Which is
Okay.
just it's from years and years ago, but it's incredibly. So his dumb mates come and say, "Come with us," and he goes, "Oh, you're idiots. Okay, I'll do that." And then they take him on this journey that eventually has a loss of kidney. They steal his kidney. It's meant to be funny and random and viral, but it's actually a very interesting allegory into how you get nudged along the way and suddenly you're in a situation you can't get out of, right? It's really good allegory for that. So metaphor, I don't know what the right word is. But yeah, so that's kind of when I say, but the professional class of the left who are using, class struggle, race struggle, all these things as a costume, like it's a Louis Vuitton purse so that to get social proof from all their friends, it's having this consequence. And it's just this symbiosis now because they're all clapping, but it's just mum and dad are like just constant, like we're in a new like Cold War. There's just no bomb. There's no nuclear bombs going, Russia and US. It's just MAGA and woke and MAGA and woke and MAGA, all this stuff.
Mhm.
And everyone's just confused and in the crossfire and having to take a side because it's just all these people who are being used. And Joe Rogan is part of that, which is that he needs to be aware of how he's being used and co-opted for this stuff in the back end. So I wrote a thing about mass formation psychosis where they had articles ready to go what mass formation psychosis is through the network of right-wing publications. Like there's hundreds of them, right?
Mhm.
And they're just I'm sure you know about this sort of disinformation stuff. But they had them ready
Well,
to
I
go.
know
But
about the disinformation, but not
yeah,
necessarily
but
the
with SEO.
specific instance of
But this is what Google's challenge is that these guys, long tail, it's like it's search engine optimization. They've already got an article so that when it's why it's always a unique term or an obscure piece of philosophy, or they just parrot the same words over and over again because what they want is to catch people who will Google it out of curiosity and then
interesting.
it's like a leads. They're just leads. And then they get you into a CRM, just a database, right? that's got your details and pummel you with more and more propaganda and
All
more
right.
calls to
Okay.
action. And yeah, so
This is interesting. All right, but I don't know if we have the time to dive into this. But I
no,
like the idea
I
of
sound
talking
insane.
about this. Well, it's new to me. I would not say it's
Yes.
insane. I would just say it's new. So let's kind of end here,
Yeah.
and then
Thank you.
and then maybe we can do it again, and you can
Well,
tell me
yeah.
more about this idea of the new terms and how
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
person gets in the database. I think that'd be nice. So,
Yeah, or people can read it. I did an article on literally, I did a honeypot article for what is mass formation psychosis.
mhm.
And then I wrote a correct article about what it was and what the trick is. So to
Okay,
play them at their own game so that it would show up on search so people would get accurate information. It's like
interesting. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So but anyway.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry. But you said yeah, sorry. People can
that's
look at it on
cool.
my website.
Miss Téa Smith, this has been
Thank you.
very interesting.
Yeah. Talk too much. Thank you.